Hey, what's up, interwebs? This is Jeremy here with Restorative Shoulder Series. Kind of wanted to just give you a quick video outlining Section 4, Training Around Pain, and kind of give you little ideas and practical applications of how you can adjust your training based off the parameters of training around pain. For the purposes of this video, we're going to look at how we could change the way we press, more specifically in a bench press and overhead press, and how we can modify those to still continue to train those movement patterns. So let's get started. All right, so here, again, just doing simple prehab stuff, warming up the shoulders, trying to prepare my body to even dynamically warm up. Here I'm just using simple external rotation exercises just to target all the muscles that will be used when pressing. So right here, banded external rotation at 90 degrees, switching things up, some internal rotation for subscap. Again, just warming up, isolating muscles, kind of considering this prehab, pre-fatiguing methods to, again, prepare myself for the workout. Right here we got some D2 extension patterning with the band. And then from here we're going to transition into banded no monies to get some of the upper back scapular muscles warmed up. And again, this warm-up, there's no sets or rep schemes you should be initially worried about. I was kind of just warming up everything until I felt ready to just basically go. So we've got banded W's here for more external rotation. Then I got a band pull apart for the upper back work, posterior shoulder. Then here we got a cheerleader series. Again, just more posterior work right here. And after that, nothing fancy, just a tricep push down with a band, medium band. And again, the warm-up shouldn't kill you. In terms, if we're talking prehab here, this is again to wake up, engage the muscles, trying to tell your body we're about to lift. Got some lat pull downs with the band, straight arm. Again, really focusing on stretching at the top as well, training in a full range of motion. So after the band stuff, I proceeded with machine work. Got a lat pull down machine. Here I'm kind of doing 2 to 3 sets of 25 with very small weights. Again, trying to just promote blood flow in my back. And then after this, we're transitioning to a seated cable row. Again, really focusing on stretching out the lat and then contracting. So getting ready for the back to act as that stabilizer on your bench press type movements. Again, all pre-fatiguing, blood flow, prep work. And after these, transitioned into a chest-supported reverse fly. Again, getting more posterior shoulder work, rhomboids, mid-trap involvement here in a more quote-unquote functional pattern or movement. Got some pinky inverted Ys here too. So after that, little core engagement and shoulder stability work here. Trying to engage everything in the body. This is, again, moving towards a more functional side of things. If you were to label it something, just getting extra shoulder stuff in here. And after that, got band-assisted push-ups to kind of warm up the pressing movements, especially in a bench press. It's good for ballistic stuff too if it's a dynamic effort lift. And then next here we got more of a kind of heading into a perturbative, proprioceptive warm-up kind of here. So I call these a walking banded push-up. Don't know what the technical name for this exercise is, but more importantly, just to really engage those proprioceptive functions of the joint here, with still kind of engaging the muscles to press. So here I'm just kind of taking myself out and in while focusing on shoulder joint stability. And usually with perturbative work, if you don't have a partner to do manual perturbative stuff, this is a good option. So here, kind of getting into the press work here, using a multi-purpose bar with multiple neutral grips and a normal grip on the outside of it. So this is kind of where we start, our main lifting with adaptation to our parameters we're trying to focus on. So here I have these set on pins as my starting position, and we're using kind of the inside neutral grip with our, again, now we're thinking of hand position, turning them in neutral facing each other. So we're not doing, an elbow flare with a, classical bench press with a straight bar. So here we're really looking after our shoulders, kind of thinking that we can't perform a straight bar just because maybe there might be rotator cuff issues going on, impingement stuff going on. So by truncating the range of motion, we could still train this movement with fairly decent loads safely. And with the neutral grip here, we're kind of in a more closed packed position to protect our shoulders, but still engaging everything in a bench press. And I'm pretty short. I'm only 5'5", and these power lift benches, they're kind of made for a lot taller people than I am. So I have the red plates on the floor just to kind of bring the floor up to me, so I can kind of engage the glutes and pushing. All right, so this next one, again, the same type of exercise here, still truncating the range of motion and keeping our hand position the same and kind of a neutral grip to, again, keep our shoulder in a more close pack position. But now, again, if you want to change the dynamic of the lift, here we got some chains going on. More of an elastic component, and then, the deloading of the chain at the bottom, and then loading more at the top. And then with the chain, this could add more, proprioceptive stuff at the very top end range motion. So again, having to work stability if that is also an issue. All right, this next one here, again, the same exact multi-purpose bar, truncated range of motion bench press, but now we're kind of using one of my favorites, putting bands around the bar. So again, if you're kind of doing more of a powerlifting scheme and you want to do dynamic effort stuff with bands, a great way to still continue that, a great way to switch up your pressing and still continue to get more of a resisted overload or an accommodating resistance from the bands. So you don't necessarily have to move this slow or fast, but again, just another way to switch up the way we're pressing. Here, I kind of removed the plates and added a lot more chains. I wanted to include this in more of if we're trying to, I guess, max out or lift, a little bit on the heavier end of our sub-max weight, 85, 90%. And here I'm kind of just holding, using an isometric at the top with the chains. So again, you kind of see my body shake, holding it up at the top. See if I can go back a little bit. Here, we got another favorite of mine. This could be kind of used as a prehab as well, before another variation of a bench press. So here is kind of like a chaotic kind of method to the bench press. So I have a bunch of plates tied up with bands, kind of going, wrapped around the bar sleeve. And this is great for, again, stability purposes and even moving slower within the whole range of motion to really try to get stability within the whole range of motion in the shoulder joint. So these were quite challenging on the eccentric. So again, training another contraction. And again, with these ones too, these bands were kind of choked up pretty high, so I didn't get too much of a chaos or stability perturbation from the plates itself. But having the two longer bands down with the other weights hanging off kind of really added to, again, that perturbative effect when we're kind of moving in space here. So again, this could be manipulated any way you like. I love using kettlebells with these and really challenging your shoulder by moving them more out on the sleeve, more in, using kettlebells and change plates or what have you. But the point here being whatever bar or hand positioning you place, or even setting the pins lower or higher. The point being is stability. So keeping your upper back tight, everything tight, even using your glutes and legs to stabilize you in the trunk. This next one, it's kind of more of an isometric press against pins and then off pins. So another great way to even add some type of max effort intent on an isometric. So we're not lifting maximal weight, but we're pressing against a pin maximally in an isometric fashion. Again, truncating the range of motion and really pushing as hard as you can while stabilizing everything else. These are pretty hard. All right, next we're going to go into our overhead pressing movements. Here I'm, again, setting off pins, and I'm actually pressing with a trap bar. So instead of, having shoulder pain when we're trying to get that, even that wrist positioning with the straight bar, I love these because, again, now we're changing the hand position, and then we're just changing, again, the mode of how we're delivering an overhead press. So, again, set off pins to ensure safety. Again, depending upon what your range of motion is, that's sort of the most pain-free. These pins really can add a difference to pressing with, especially this trap bar. And I also love the trap bar overhead press too, because now we're kind of pressing in more, again, still a closed pack position when we're at our starting position. But as we press overhead, we still want to activate those posterior muscles, but we're now kind of pressing in a scapular plane. Again, still wanting to press overhead, activating those muscles. And then the next one, again, isometric push against pins with truncated range of motion with the pins dropped at the starting position. So same idea, a max effort intent on pushing as we're holding an isometric contraction at the very top of where those pins are set. So again, you can move these pins however far up you want or closer if you want. Just, again, we're training different ranges of motion. And this next one is the same kind of pressing movement in the scapular plane. Now we're just using bands. So I like bands too because now you can kind of really control where you want to stop and go. And we're still, my intent when I was pressing with these bands was still kind of keeping my shoulders in a scapular plane. So you're not kind of cranking your shoulder, your hand behind you, if that causes pain, but still kind of training the movement. All right, next, after those, press variations with the bar, now I'm kind of thinking what other accessories I can do to still press, something away from me without loading my shoulder and shearing it with, a barbell and heavy poundage. So here I have a TRX attached to some chains, so I'm still kind of using that pressing motion to press something away from me. But now, my hand's in a better position. My shoulders, again, are in a more close packed position, and I can still press. So here, doing the same thing, but now kind of a abbreviated overhead press. My trunk is kind of angled, so where it's not straight up. And again, overhead pressing, but still keeping myself in the scapular plane. Next here, we got some more dynamic stuff with an end range isometric. So here I'm just doing a D2 extension with my shoulder, so kind of a PNF pattern, but at the end I'm using the power rack to hold an isometric at the end. And again, varying the ranges of motion, varying body position. So more so a whole body movement, with rotation, but still with the intent of working the shoulder. So then changing up the positioning here. So kind of used a band to do some pull downs with the lat. So here I made sure that when I'm up overhead, I'm getting a good lat stretch and kind of relaxing, so it kind of gives me that traction overhead. Again, with traction, just kind of promoting blood flow and stuff like that. And then when I'm pulling down, I'm really activating my lats. So we're kind of getting some prehab, rehab stuff too with the lats. All right, now here I actually intended for this to be before all the pressing stuff. My mistake, but here we're kind of doing controlled articulated rotations. And again, you can do these after as well when your shoulder's warmed up, but really working on range of motion, like a controlled range of motion over time with these articulations. So these are low-key still tough. All the FRC stuff, tough exercises to do, simple in nature, no weight needed, but again, these, bang for your buck kind of stuff to regain range of motion over time. These are really hard. Really working that the humeral head into that socket. And again, another one I forgot to show you was this press variation. This is probably one of my all-time favorites. This is kind of, again, using what's called like a lightened method. Having a heavy band assist you lift a weight up. This is great, just to help you move weight that you haven't moved in a while, just to get that extra load at the top to really feel that load in a safe manner. And again, here we're truncating the range of motion and still using a neutral grip and a neutral hand position. So great for max effort days, or great just to get some heavy training while our shoulders healing. So you can see how the band loosens up and kind of comes down and assists us at the bottom. All right, now here These last couple ones are with the blood flow restriction cuffs. Blood flow restriction is great, especially when we're kind of healing from injury. So it allows us to train with extremely light weights, but still get those muscular effects as if we were training with heavy weights. So just be careful with these. Technically, with blood flow restriction, you kind of really need to know your numbers in terms of what your restriction number is, because if you blow them up too tight, you don't want to run into other complications leading up to that. So here, I had one of my coworkers who's an athletic trainer actually get my numbers and pumped it up. I think it was around 90. So using the blood flow to really get, or using a banded assisted push up again, so we can still kind of get into that push up exercise, but not really, load up on the elbows or shoulders too much. And then with BFR work, I love to do a kind of a 30, 15, 15, 10 scheme. So the first set will be 30 reps, the next two sets will be 15, and then the last set would be 10 reps. These really pump up the arms. Next here, after resting, pumped it up again, and then now we're doing dumbbell lateral raises. So really, really trying to get those hypertrophic effects without lifting a lot of weight. And then last here we have a lying tricep extension with dumbbells. And again, these are 10-pound weights, and these felt like my arms were about to explode at the end of the last set. So, again, a very quick video on how to apply, those parameters of training around your pain. So again, thinking of your your warm up with your blood flow and your movement prep, and then the pre-fatiguing factors into your dynamic stuff, and then working into your main lifts with the motor control, and then adding those perturbative and proprioceptive stuff and hand positioning. So the most important thing here is to identify what your pain generators are and what's going on in order for you to intelligently, make those changes to your training. So we're still training, but at the same time, given a good separate rehab program, we're still in that environment to heal. And then the last thing is with the BFR work, this stuff I wouldn't advise doing before the main lift. This is pretty fatiguing, so this would be a good finisher, or even like a workout on a separate day when you're kind of crunched for time. A great way to get those effects with a small amount of time if you're kind of crunched for time. So again, thanks for that, and hope your training goes well.